We have VPs in both school boards, teachers in both school boards, admin, so principals and staff in both school boards, who are dropping the N-word.
Hey, welcome to News You Can Use. I'm your host, Brandon Gomez. You know, there are some wild stories circulating about the treatment of racialized students in Ontario. In fact, listen to this. Just last year, the police were called on a 4-year-old black student at a Catholic school in Waterloo, and police have laid charges in relation to another incident where multiple racialized students reported being taped to their desks by a teacher and left in a classroom alone. No joke. Now, before we get into all of that, I needed to do a few things, like subscribing to this channel, tapping that notification bell, smashing the like button, and making sure to follow us across all of our social media. The details are in the description below. So, Lena and Selam, they are two mothers from the Kitchener-Waterloo area who say they have had enough of the disgusting racism that so many students face in the classroom every single day. That's why they founded the Black Parents Council of Kitchener-Waterloo and are demanding that the school board make significant changes to abolish racism in schools. They are here today to share not only their stories, but their hopes for change. Let's bring them in. Lena and Selam from the Black Parents Council in Kitchener-Waterloo, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you guys today?
I'm good. I think you're good.
Yeah?
A lot, but yeah, doing well, doing well.
Yeah. Talk to me, what's going on in Kitchener-Waterloo when it comes to education and students of color?
Well, I think what we're seeing is obviously anti-Black racism, knowing that it's a public health crisis. Of course, we're seeing it in our schools. We're seeing police officers being called on 4-year-old Black children. We're seeing, children of color, racialized children being tied up. It's what we experienced growing up here in Ontario, and we're seeing our children go through the same thing.
Let me just roll that back. We're seeing kids being tied up and police officers being called on 4-year-old kids?
Yeah, so within the public and Catholic school system, we're seeing that teachers are duct taping children, putting them in closets. There are teachers who are calling the police on children who are neurodivergent, Black children, Indigenous children, racialized children. There's a very strong anti-Muslim and anti-Black sentiment in both school boards. And this is the most vulnerable of our population. These are our children.
Yeah.
This has been ongoing for generations. And we grew up with immigrant parents who didn't know how to navigate the system and didn't know how to advocate for their children. They were thinking of survival. And so it was very much, put your head down, keep working. It's okay, if it's racism, you just gotta keep working. Let your success make the noise. What that ended up happening and doing was it created a whole generation of Black, Indigenous, racialized, and Muslim kids, Two-Spirit LGBTQ kids who were part of these groups, like intersectionally, who are traumatized. We're now those kids grown up with our own children, seeing that this is not changed at all. Like the policies sure are there, the pride flags sure are flying, but the actual work being done is non-existent.
When I hear these stories of what you're saying happened in the schools with teachers calling police on kids, duct taping kids, what has been the recourse for the teachers who conducted that mess?
The reason why we came together as parents and as caregivers is because we don't see accountability. These systems protect teachers, specifically, white teachers, from any accountability for the harm that they've perpetuated. And we have stories of parents who have shared their stories with us where the schools have, brought their lawyers involved and have basically tried to pretend that it never happened or minimize the experience.
And to just delve a little deeper into what Selam was saying of what does the lack of accountability look like? We have VPs in both school boards, teachers in both school boards, admin, so principals and staff in both school boards, who are dropping the N-word or calling children terrorists, making fun of Indigenous languages, making fun of Indigenous cultures. Like I said, anti-Muslim rhetoric, anti-trans rhetoric that is very normalized. And when a parent does speak up, they have to go through all these loopholes in the system, right? If an investigation is done, what they end up doing is they just take the teacher and they move them to another school.
You know, one of the things that we're seeing is the director of the Catholic School Board, who also stated that systemic racism does not exist in the Catholic School Board.
Are your kids in the Catholic or the public?
Public.
Public.
Yeah.
How old are your children, if you don't mind me asking?
My son is 16.
16.
Yeah.
And yours?
8. Oh, he's about to turn 8.
He's
7
about to
right
turn
now.
8.
Yeah.
And they've experienced anti-Black racism
Oh, yeah.
in Kitchener, Waterloo?
I think growing up watching where my son is today, I think as a Black mother,
Yeah.
I've had to advocate in every space that he's in. I've had to be like I'm like the teacher, because I have to like teach him another set of lessons at home to help him endure all of the anti-Black rhetoric. You know,
Do you mind sharing some of those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, some of it was being asked for the N-word pass for years
What?
in school. Being asked for, they would say, white kids and non-Black children or youth would say, can we get a 2-second or a 10-minute or a 1-day or a 1-week N-word pass? There was one situation where the Black youth were all going to this Black Brilliance conference that the school finally started holding, or the region started holding, because of all the anti-Black racism that was happening. And all of the Black youth were standing and waiting to go get on the bus. You know, obviously they're not used to seeing all Black youth standing together. And one of the students, another student, saw this group of kids and wrote in a Snapchat that there's a, you know, field trip day for Black youth, N-words are gone, epic.
How long has your guys' organization been operating for?
Couple, 3 months, 4 months.
It's been about 3 or 4 months,
Yeah.
And how many stories in those 3 months have you heard?
We're talking, at least on my personal experiences, I've had over 100 stories come up.
In just 3 months?
Yeah, all you have to say to people is like, hey, this exists and we're advocating for children, and then people open up. And then you realize like, yeah, there's anti-Black racism, there's anti-indigeneity, there's there's a lot of like anti-Pakistani, anti-Indian rhetoric that's being passed around by teachers, anti-Muslim rhetoric, and then again going back to Two-Spirit LGBTQ community within these communities, because it doesn't seem to harm white LGBTQ folks. It's very specific to us.
So what's the solution? Because I know you guys have been working towards like recommendations for the school boards, right?
Well, demands.
Demand.
Yes.
Okay. Let's
have-
call it what it is then.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're not asking,
Right.
we're demanding, and we're telling.
Yeah.
And what are we telling them?
We need accountability. How are teachers dropping the N-bomb and still have a job? Can you imagine that being in a corporate environment?
Listen,
Can you imagine if they were using like anti-Semitic
Oh my God,
narrative?
exactly.
And we recognize that that's
Like-
the right thing to do. There should be accountability. You know, so what we're asking for is demanding
Yes.
actually is many things, which is
Yes.
people in power and positions like the director of the Catholic School Board, they need to be removed. Because if you can't adequately do your job, if you don't even believe systemic racism exists, how can you serve our communities? How can you address, you know, systemic harm?
Yes.
So we want accountability, which is the removal of the Catholic School Board director. We want removal of other, you know, trustees that are on the school board in our community who are perpetuating harm, racism and transphobia. We also want, you know, an African curriculum that will support our youth, and so that they can see themselves, see representation. And we want investigation. We want policies in place, right? Because we know that people are not going to change from the goodness of their heart. Some people might, but majority of people will change when they know there's consequences. What we want is to come together as a community and say enough is enough. This is your job, and we're going to hold your feet to the fire.
I
wanna
love
ask
that.
you-
Oh, hold your feet to the fire.
That's what's up.
Okay, I'm gonna put your feet in the fire.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, it's gonna get hot in here.
That's what I'm saying. We're not
Seriously.
playing anymore.
And they're very like, this is not a kumbaya space of like, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's very intentional racism.
This is white supremacy.
Yes.
That's being continuously
Let's keep it
perpetuated.
real.
See that?
Like-
Why aren't they like the Catholic School Board? Anecdotally, it is 96% white. Like as far as teachers, admin, and staff,
And that doesn't happen by accident.
That's what I'm saying. 92% in the public school board. Again, not by accident, by design.
In Kitchener-Waterloo.
They do not want black teachers. They do not want racialized teachers. They do not want Indigenous teachers because it is a threat to their system. Because then that's when real accountability happens. I'm in my son's parent council, and I've had multiple parents in that, white parents in that parent council be like, we don't talk about racism with our kids. We need to ensure that they have a happy childhood. And when I've pushed back and said, so are you trying to say that your kid's better than my kid because they deserve a happy life, but my child doesn't? They become fragile and they get defensive.
There's going to be a lot of parents watching this who are living not in Toronto, because everybody's moving all over the province, right, into areas that are just slowly now becoming more diverse, and are experiencing similar challenges. What can these parents do if they're watching this right now and they're feeling helpless or they're feeling scared, as you mentioned? What do they do? Where can they go? Where should they start?
Our recommendation is find other parents, find other caregivers, come together. Even if you don't go into communicating with the system, talk with each other, right? And so when we come together, things start to change. And they don't want us to come together, but we need that, not just for advocating against the system, but for finding community and healing and support. I heard a quote from someone that was sharing how, we're planting seeds for trees that we won't be able to experience the shade for. Like, we're not going to experience the shade of those trees that are planted. Our children or our children's children will. And so we know that we're doing that work right now. Yeah.
Lena and Selam, thank you. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sending you all the positive vibes as you continue your fight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Hey BG Squad, thanks so much for checking out our channel, and listen to this, we have more great content for you, like this video right here and this video right here. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to this channel right now and tap that notification bell.